Hey everyone, welcome back to Driple Studios. Today I'll show you how to use proximity prompts in Roblox Studio. Proximity prompts allow the player to interact with objects in your experience by using a designated key or mouse click. First, let's create a part and add a proximity prompt to it. Under Workspace, I'll add in a part. I'll just anchor it. And in the part, I'll add a proximity prompt. If we open the Properties tab and click on the proximity prompt, we can change a bunch of options. We can change the action text. This is the text that appears on the screen when the player is close to the object. You can disable clickable prompt. This means that the player won't be able to click the prompt to activate it. Enabled just enables or disables the prompt. Exclusivity controls who can see and interact with a proximity prompt. If we open this, we see three options. One per button means only one prompt per input key shows at a time per player. If two prompts use the same key, the closer one is shown. One globally means only one player can see and use the prompt at a time. And always show means everyone can see and use the prompt at the same time. Gamepad key code is the button that needs to be pressed on an Xbox controller to trigger the prompt. Hold duration is how long the button needs to be held for the prompt to be triggered. Keyboard key code is the key on the keyboard that needs to be pressed to trigger the prompt. Max activation distance is the number of studs the player needs to be away from the part to see the prompt. Object text is the name text that appears on the prompt. If I set that to name, I'll show you now when we test it. If requires line of sight is disabled, the player will be able to view the prompt through walls and other parts obstructing the player's view. I won't go into custom proximity prompts in this video. Now let's get into the coding part of the prompt. First of all, let me just test here and show you what I mean by the name. Here we go, so it says name now and interact. So these two texts change with the action text and the name text, the object text, sorry. Now inside of the proximity prompt, let's add a script. In here, let's get the proximity prompt. So proximity prompt equals script.parent. And now there's two functions we can use to fire code when the proximity prompt is triggered. We can use triggered and trigger ended. So let's do proximity prompt dot triggered :connect function, and automatically this is called whenever the player clicks or triggers the proximity prompt. So if they just click the key, say the hold duration is 5 seconds, I'm actually going to set the hold duration to 3 seconds. And this proximity prompt is triggered whenever the hold duration ends. So after 3 seconds, this will be triggered. Let's test that. So I hold it for 3 seconds. And it says fired in the script. If I let go, before it finishes, it doesn't say anything. Now, let's try the other one. Proximity prompts dot trigger ended :connect function. And in here, let's print trigger ended. And see what happens. So if we hold E the entire time, our fired calls, but I'm still holding E. As soon as I let go of it, it calls the trigger ended. If I now hold E and then let go before it finishes, nothing happens. And the reason for that is because even though trigger ended sounds like as soon as you let go, it will call this code, that's not actually true. What trigger ended does is it will run code once the key's been let go of, even after it's been triggered. So it has to be triggered first. So triggered will always be fired first, and trigger ended is always fired second. So in here, we can run server code. You can run any server code you'd like in these functions here. Something else which is quite nice, you don't have to include it, as I haven't, but the player is also automatically passed in as an argument when the function is called. So we could add player as a parameter here and actually print the player that touched the proximity prompt. So if I was to now do it, I could hold E, and when it triggers, my username is printed out. And if I click this, it actually takes me to my player, which is a really nice feature of proximity prompts because you can easily get access to the player within the server script. So anyway, we can do server code here. But what if we want to do code on the client? For example, we wanted to make this part disappear just on the client. Well, we would need a remote event. So let's, inside replicated storage, add a remote event, which I'll just rename to hide part. And let's also get the replicated storage. So replicated storage is game:get service, replicated storage, and let's get our remote event. Hide part remote event is replicated storage, wait for child, hide part. Now, to do client code, we can just say hide part RE, fire client, passing in the player that we want to fire this on. So whenever we fire a client, we always have to pass the player whose client we want to fire the code on. If you want more information on remote events, check out my video on remote events. I will leave a link to that in the description. We can do the same in the trigger ended here. And now, inside of starter player and starter player scripts, or you can do starter character scripts, but do note that starter character scripts, the script is reloaded into the character each time the character dies and respawns. And what we can do in here is just say local replicated storage equals game, get service replicated storage, get our remote event, local hide part remote event is replicated storage, wait for child, hide part. And then we can say hide part remote event, the on client event, connect function. We don't need to pass the player through. Again, if you want more explanation on remote events, check out my video on them. And in here, we can do client code, such as deleting the part. So what we could do is pass the part through. I could then say part destroy. And then when we call it in this script, I could also pass in ProximityPrompt.parent, which is the part. So now if I test this with 2 players, so if I go up to here on player 1, for example, so this player here, if I hold E, eventually when it gets to the end, it will delete. It deletes, but just for this player. So as far as this player is aware, it's still there. If I walk over here, the player is just walking through it now, but it's not there for the player because we've hidden it on the client. That is it for proximity prompts for now. There are custom features you can add, but I won't go into them in this video. But maybe if you want another video on those, I can look into it. Thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please leave a like and subscribe, as it would really help us out, and feel free to check out our Discord server. The link will be in the description, where we're trying to build a community of future game developers. You can ask for programming help there, help others, share your projects, or just chat there. More information can be found in the description. Thank you and goodbye.